Chapter 7 Emotionless. Emotionless. That's what everyone called me. 5 months. I'd lived an emotionless life for 5 months. 5 cursed months. What I feared became reality. Spring was ruined for me. The summer had started, and during all those months I hadn't made much progress. But it wasn't like I was still trying. I was already far gone. The world had started to hate me. News spread fast, and all my past efforts were put to waste. Whenever I was outdoors, random strangers would suddenly attack me. And that's not all. I was charged with the most preposterous things: destruction, threatening, even murder. The people who wanted to see me locked up were reckless, and therefore I was never arrested, seeing as it wasn't according to the law and there was no proof. The police nor the government could do anything about me. Now here's why I was hated so much. Wherever I walked, wherever I was, calamities occurred. The people around me got hurt, and some even lost their lives. I never did anything, but wherever I went, accidents occurred. I knew it wasn't me. I now understood the Spirit's reason for doing all these things to me. He wanted me to suffer like never before. And none were calamities I could prevent. The people had lost all gratefulness and all respect for me. Even the President of America revoked the Medal of Bravery he gave me the year before. After all, he had to keep his image. Everyone was against me. I had never felt as hated. Not just the people I didn't know, but the people who knew me very well, like my classmates, all were against me as well. The only moments they wanted anything to do with me was when they wanted to yell at me for being the cause of the deaths of my family and friends. I couldn't believe that's what they thought, that I killed them. But after all, they thought I was a freak. I was constantly blamed for everything, and everyone constantly tried to frame me, but I was much too clever. They never managed to get me to sit in front of a judge, but I frankly didn't care. I was all alone and wasn't exactly living with a purpose anymore. I didn't care what would happen to me. The last few months were the most useless ones in my life. I remained in bed or on the couch for hours, every day. My eyes were basically glued to the TV. When my eyes started to hurt, I usually went to bed and tried to get some sleep. No night was without nightmares, and I never managed to get enough sleep. The money my mother had left behind was almost gone. I was very close to fully emptying her entire bank account, though all I ever spent it on was food and simple supplies. I ignored each letter complaining about the rent. I couldn't care less. And I couldn't ever bring myself to go look for a job. I had turned into a lazy, lifeless failure, and not to forget, a walking calamity. I expected to live out the days like that, completely emotionless. I thought I could do it as long as the Spirit didn't suddenly decide to torture me physically. I didn't see a reason to ever regain any emotion or ever let anyone in. I was completely lost, but a human can't remain emotionless forever. Eventually, it was still too much. It started as a day like any, but loneliness got to me. After a night with 2 hours of sleep, I headed downstairs and checked the fridge for something to eat. To my regret, it was empty. I headed for the store again. On my way there, people noticed me and backed off. Luckily, none were stupid enough to attack me again. Every time they did, they were hurt heavily or killed at the spot. Everyone kept staring at me, but I didn't care. As I made it to the store, I grabbed a basket and looked for products to buy. At the cash register, I put the items on the conveyor belt and waited until I was told the price. As I tried to pay for it with my mother's card, it was declined. At last, I was out of money. With only a small selection of the groceries I wanted to buy, I went home. What a terrific day, I kept thinking. The recent days were constantly feeding my sarcasm, but like I said, this day was one that finally got to me. Why? Well, it was my birthday. It wasn't long until the loneliness kicked in. While laying in bed, doing nothing but feeling sorry for myself, I murmured, "Happy birthday." The faces of the ones I had lost flashed by. That hadn't happened in a long time. I kept wondering why I was still trying to go on. Eventually, it was all too much. My emotions returned for once more, and I burst in tears once again. The day after started a little differently. As a horrible day was behind me, I realized I had to make some changes. I couldn't go on like that. The option to get a job was already out of the picture. Everyone knew my name, and my reputation wasn't exactly splendid. There was the option to start with crime, but despite how lost I was, I could never. I wasn't that lost. By constantly asking myself whether or not life was still worth it, I kept contemplating the possibility of change. I always ended up coming to the conclusion that change would never arrive, but there was always something withholding me from wanting to end it. That spirit was always in my mind. I kept thinking he was preparing something for me. If he kept on going like that, he wouldn't do much damage. Anything he did went right past me. Nothing could mentally harm me anymore. I wondered why he waited so long. What gain was there for him? But despite wanting to make a change to my life and look for the light, my determination was terminated once the doorbell rang and I was evicted. I suppose I should have opened the letters I kept receiving, but it was too late. I was forcefully removed from the house. It surprised me to see the people who evicted me remained unharmed. What surprised me even more was that I didn't fight it. I just went along. And that way, I was put on the streets with nothing but my clothes and, well, that was basically it. I had no help, no place to stay, no one. As I walked through the streets aimlessly, I noticed something peculiar. The people around me were staring and whispering, as usual, though weirdly enough, it seemed like they were all discussing something together. It was like it was one entire group scheming about something, and suddenly they started approaching me, all together. Oh no. In the back, I saw a woman holding up her phone. I soon realized what was happening. They were filming me and trying to get evidence of me attacking. Please don't. I didn't want them to die. Enough people had died already. I turned around and started walking away, but to my regret, I was too late. The tiles from the path below me came loose and were shot towards the people. One by one, they were hit by a tile and were knocked down. Some ran away, deciding it was too risky after all. Others kept trying. They clearly didn't just want evidence, they wanted to hurt me. But I couldn't feel sorry. It never was me doing all those horrible things. Before anyone could get lethally hurt, the police arrived at the scene. As they exited their cars, they pointed their guns at me. Don't move, one of them shouted. I knew nothing would happen to me. The spirit was saving me from something important. Ironically, it even looked like it was protecting me, though I felt like a pig for slaughter. So in that situation, I knew he'd do something to get me out of it. But before anything could be done, I suddenly felt a terrible stinging. As it turned out, I was snuck upon from behind and tasered. As I fell to the ground, I convulsed and was unable to move. The spirit was staying out of it, why I didn't know. But at last, I was outplayed. I was pulled up and one of the policemen looked me straight in the eyes. It's over, emotionless freak. And with a hit to the side of the head, I was knocked unconscious.